okay? This is not a federal prosecution. Joe Biden or anyone from his Justice Department have absolutely zero to do with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. They have no jurisdiction over him. They have no contacts with him. They have no control, certainly, over him. So to say that Joe Biden brought this case is one of the most ridiculous things I've heard. We know that's not the case. And even Trump's lawyers know that's not the case.
Now, wait right there, because as you say, even Trump's lawyers know that's the case. You were attorney with Trump. You were on Trump's case early and got off the case. So you're speaking as one that knew as you signed into work for Trump, which you explained on this show why, and you explained why you got out.
That was Donald Trump's former lawyer, Joe Tacopina, who withdrew from the Trump Manhattan criminal case before the trial started. He was one of the lead lawyers. You'll recall that Joe Tacopina also represented Donald Trump in the first E. Jean Carroll defamation and sexual assault case where Trump was hit with a $5 million verdict. And Joe Tacopina was representing Donald Trump in the criminal case after Donald Trump was indicted by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. And then Joe Tacopina went on MSNBC. He had spoke to Reverend Al Sharpton on the show and said that his moral compass, he searched his compass and he couldn't represent Donald Trump anymore. That was before the trial started. And Joe Tacopina, of all people, is looking like he exercised pretty good judgment there. And so I do want to give him a shout out there for doing that. And here in this interview with Al Sharpton on MSNBC, this is the most recent interview from this weekend that just took place, the one I'm talking about. He says that it's absolutely ludicrous to claim that the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case was brought by President Joe Biden. Watch what Donald Trump's former lawyer, this guy represented Trump in the criminal case, had to say about his former client. Play the clip.
They might have a spring today, but it's not going to last very long because what happened in New York is a travesty of justice. Everybody knows it.
I can't believe the hoax, this sham, this absolute injustice justice system, weaponizing the justice system of the United States of America against a political opponent. Un-American. Joe Biden, you're fired.
I do believe the Supreme Court should step in. Obviously, this is totally unprecedented, and it's dangerous to our system. This will be overturned, guys. There's no question about it. It's just going to take some time.
What are your thoughts on what you just heard, Joe? And as I mentioned, they're just a few of the many of the Republican leaders.
Yeah, what I hear, like Tim Scott is someone I used to respect, but I sort of lost a lot of respect from what I just heard because he sounded so uneducated, unintelligent, and made no sense at all to say that, look, I understand there's a political motivation to a lot of what's going on in our country today. And everyone wants to sort of paint the broad brush and, this is a political vendetta and it's weaponization of the justice system. This is a state case. This is different than the Jack Smith cases, okay? This is not a federal prosecution. Joe Biden or anyone from his Justice Department have absolutely zero to do with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. They have no jurisdiction over him. They have no contacts with him. They have no control, certainly, over him. So to say that Joe Biden brought this case is one of the most ridiculous things I've heard. We know that's not the case. And even Trump's lawyers know that's not the case.
Now, wait right there, because as you say, even Trump's lawyers know that's the case. You were attorney with Trump. You were on Trump's case early and got off the case. So you're speaking as one that knew as you signed into work for Trump, which you explained on this show why, and you explained why you got out, that this had nothing to do with Joe Biden or any of the federal government trying to lean in on Donald Trump.
The federal government has no input on the Manhattan District Attorney. It's a state prosecution.
Yeah, so when anybody says, oh, Donald Trump says this or Donald Trump that, or any of your MAGA friends, if you have any remaining, are saying that, say, look at what Donald Trump's former lawyer just said on MSNBC this weekend on the Al Sharpton show. Here he is again as part of this interview from this weekend. What a powerful interview he gave. Here, play this clip.
Is he going to use this as a campaign boost? That's the only thing he's thinking. I mean, he's clearly going to try and now use this as to form himself into some sort of a martyr, to try and position himself as a martyr, and use this as someone who's been, politically attacked by his opponents, and that the justice system has been politicized. That's how he's going to use it. That's what he's going to do. Look, Reverend, this is a bomb on the American political landscape. Make no mistake about it. But I also think there is a sliver of Americans who are undecided here. I think the people who are supporters of Donald Trump will be supporters of Donald Trump, whether he gets convicted in all 4 of his indictments. And just let that swivel around your brain when you say it a little bit. Our presidential candidate has 4 indictments, 1 conviction, or the people who are against him. Certainly, this is not doing anything to change that. So I just don't know at the end of the day what effect this is really going to have on the election. There's a sliver, perhaps, of undecided Americans who may say, you know what, I can't have a convicted felon as our president.
He looks like a different person. That's the thing. When you're representing Donald Trump, he sucks the soul out of you. You see what Todd Blanch, who previously had a good reputation, became when he was the lead lawyer of Trump's criminal trial team. Take a look at Joe Tacopina when he was representing Donald Trump. And remember, over a year ago when the indictment was brought and Donald Trump, right before the indictment was brought, and Donald Trump started posting these threats against Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, like the post Donald Trump did with the baseball bat looking like he was going to bludgeon the Manhattan District Attorney, and Donald Trump posted that to all of his violent followers. Remember, Joe Tacopina was asked about that. Just look at what Tacopina, look at even what he physically looks like. You can tell that he's suffering as a result of this representation of Donald Trump. Here, play this clip.
That includes the witnesses for the people who are talking just as much.
But it also includes the former president swinging a baseball bat at the head of the Manhattan DA.
Well, I don't know where you got that, because if
that was a tweet sent out by the former president.
No, it wasn't. And first of all, that picture was not him swinging a baseball bat. I mean, if you want to distort the facts, go right ahead. I want to address that. Yes, it is. He wasn't swinging a baseball bat at anyone's head. That was a picture of him showing off an American-made bat. But someone else put a picture of the district attorney next to him, and in an article posted that. That's not his article. It's not his photos.
That on Truth Social?
I mean, and the fact that he had to say that is just so utterly embarrassing. And I mean, he must have felt that this was just destroying his reputation at the time, because it absolutely was. And I had heard before that Tacopina was a good guy. I knew people who knew Tacopina. They're like, yeah, this is pretty surprising. But I think Tacopina falls into that category of people who think that they're going to be able to deal with Trump, and then they figure there's no way to deal with Donald Trump, this wannabe fascist baby. This was right after the E. Jean Carroll first verdict was handed down. Remember, Joe Tacopina did not represent E. Jean Carroll in the second trial. In Tacopina's case, that involved the sexual assault and defamation allegations, the more recent defamation allegations, and then the 1996 sexual assault. Donald Trump was hit with a $5 million verdict in that case, and that's this press conference I want to show you right now, where Tacopina was called an effing Neanderthal by people who were there during that press conference. But then after Tacopina left and Alina Habba was representing Trump, Trump was hit with, when you include post and pre-judgment interest, over $90 million just on the defamation itself. But this was Tacopina after he lost the E. Jean Carroll case. Play this clip.
They found him not liable for the rape.
You're a fucking Neanderthal.
What do you make of the fact that you feel?
And remember, there was the moment at that trial where Donald Trump fled the country, and then Donald Trump said that he was going to come back and testify in the E. Jean Carroll case, even though the defense had rested, even though Tacopina had rested. Donald Trump fled to Scotland and Ireland. He's like, I'm going to go back and I'm going to confront her. I'm going to testify. Remember when Trump said that? If you don't, let me play the clip.
Going back early because a woman made a claim that's totally false. It was fake. She's a fake. She wrote in a book she's a Democrat. We have a rough judge. We have a judge that doesn't like me much, appointed by Bill Clinton. And he's a guy that doesn't like me much. He's, I guess, not allowing the coat that they wanted to put into evidence. Once we said, yes, put it into evidence, they said, oh, we don't want to do that. It's a disgrace, but I have to do it. That's part of life.
Then, of course, Donald Trump didn't do that. So the well-respected federal judge, Judge Kaplan, who, by the way, treated Tacopina with respect because Tacopina had a good reputation. He said, hey, Mr. Tacopina, I hear your client says he's going to testify. Is he going to? Because even though you rested, I'll give him the opportunity. And Tacopina's like, no, I'm not. He's not testifying. He's left the country. Judge, you know what I have to deal with as well. And then Joe, I got to show this clip to the Midas Mighty. This is when Joe Tacopina would enter the courtroom. They would call him Tacky Tacopina. And look at the different way he was received versus when E. Jean Carroll walked into the courtroom. Play this clip.
Shame on you. Tacky Tacopina. What is on you? Shame on you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You are so brave. We know you. Trump is a predator. Millions and millions of women believe you. Millions of women.
And here was the moment, and this was before the Manhattan criminal trial started. This was a separate appearance that Tacopina did on Al Sharpton. They're friends. They're good friends. That's why he goes on the Al Sharpton show to give this news. But when he withdrew before the criminal trial ever started, here's the reason that he said he was leaving Trump's legal team. And then he swiftly withdrew, leaving Trump with the legal team of Alina Habba on the civil cases, then Todd Blanch, Susan Nicholas, who we've never heard say a peep. That should be pretty telling. And Emile Bove, who hasn't said a peep. But here's what Tacopina said on Al Sharpton. Play the clip.
Why would you leave the team?
By the way, it's the first and only interview, Reverend, that I'll be doing on this topic. Okay, you're someone obviously very special to me and someone I have a relationship with, and you know I'm going to discuss it once and only once to the degree I can. I left the team because it was just my time. I had to follow my compass, and my compass told me it was my time there was done. There are a lot of personal reasons that went into that, things that I can and won't discuss. I also have ASAP Rocky's trial coming up this year, which is going to take most of my year. The attention that's going to be put into that case, there's a lot riding on that for that young man, his wife, and his family.
So now Todd Blanch, the human mannequin who stands there next to Donald Trump, I've described Todd Blanch as he reminds me now of the Steve Carell character from he was playing the weatherman on Anchorman. You recall that? So let me show you right now what Todd Blanch had to say. Let's play the clip right now.
Why did Donald Trump not ultimately take the stand here?
Well, that's a very personal question to him and to me, honestly. And it's a very difficult question. Of course he wanted to testify, and I don't say that because that's what he has said. He wanted to get his story out. I think the judge had made some decisions before the trial or the day of the trial started about what would be allowed to be asked of him by the prosecutors if he took the stand. And some of those questions were really complicated to answer because there's still appeals going on, and so there's a lot of decision points that go into whether somebody testifies. Ultimately, it's his decision, and he listened to us, and he relied on our counsel, and he reached a decision that he thought was right, which I very much agreed with.
So that means your counsel was for him to not take the stand.
I'm not going to tell you what my counsel was.
Well, you said he relied on counsel and he went with that decision and he didn't take the stand.
But ultimately, it was his decision, and I never say, and I think colleagues and folks that you have on here hopefully agree with me. I never say to somebody, "Don't take the stand." Right? That's their decision, and that's a decision that they have to make. But I want them to have They want them to know what will happen on the good and the bad if they do take the stand.
So no regrets on him not taking the stand?
Look, the verdict came down a couple hours ago. I don't know if I have any regrets about anything yet. I'm still thinking things through, and I think so is he, and so are everybody else around him. But at this point, I don't think that there was a conviction because he did not take the stand.
And one more time, let me show you one more clip of Todd Blanch right here, just so you can see what Joe Tacopina avoided. Let's play this clip.
When he was leaving, one thing he brought up were the witnesses who were not called. And he was saying that there could have been witnesses that would have helped make the case. We never saw Keith Schiller, Alan Weisselberg, some key figures here who got brought up a lot. Why didn't the defense call any of these witnesses?
Well, because we happen to live in America and we don't have the burden of proof. And so there's not That's not the point. That's a question that is a loaded question that should not be asked of a defense attorney or a defendant. The question that we asked the jury, and they ultimately obviously got passed, is why the prosecution didn't call those witnesses, right? You, as a defense attorney, you don't go into a case saying, I'm going to fill the holes of the prosecution, right? And Keith Schiller and some of the other witnesses that were not ultimately called, in our view, should have been called by the prosecution, and we asked the jury to take a hard look at that. I don't know whether they did or not, but they convicted.
Todd Blanch.
And there you have it. I gotta hand it to Joe Tacopina right there for leaving the legal team. And you heard him there in his own words, throwing Donald Trump under the bus there and saying this was not a politicized thing. That's not what this was. This was a state prosecution, and that's what this was about. I'm Ben Meiselas from the MeidasTouch Network. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million subscribers, and thanks for your support. Have a good one.
Enough! Send it to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com.